Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Pete and Nancy Live. We've been doing a series on OCD, and today we're going to talk about what you can do for yourself if you have OCD. Want to start, Pete?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting process. You know what? One of the first things you have to do, and I do this a lot, is you have to do a cognitive shift in your mind.
Okay.
Like sometimes when I leave the house, I'll find myself wanting to check all three outside doors. So sometimes I'll let myself do it once, but then I really have to catch myself because my mind keeps telling me, do it again, do it again. So I have to do this cognitive shift where I tell myself, no, you checked it, you just went around once. If anything was unlocked, you would have found it. So everything is locked. You just need to get in your truck and you need to think about the rest of your day. So it's a cognitive shift away from the OCD thoughts.
Right. Not letting that thought go into the loop so that you'll do that same behavior again. Instead, taking your mind and saying, now we're going to concentrate on this and this and this. This is the next thing. Get in the truck, go to work, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because it's so easy to get caught in that trap.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So the next thing is know your triggers. I know I came in here yesterday. I think your dad and your sister were here because all the lights and the doors were on. Mm-hmm. But my first thought when I walked in the door was, this isn't the way it's supposed to be. And I immediately kind of went into combat mode. Mm-hmm. And I got myself out of it quickly because once that initial thought was over, but I noticed when I thought this is going to come back to haunt me later in the day. So when I was getting ready to leave, I started getting caught in the loop of making sure things were shut off. Yeah. And then when I was leaving, I realized I did the door, and I did it my 2 times, and I almost found myself fighting with myself not to do it a second time. Before, if I hadn't realized earlier in the day that was my trigger and I knew what to expect at some point, I would have got caught in the loop again.
Again, it would have spun you back.
Yeah.
That's a terrific example. It just happened yesterday, folks. Yeah, a real life example. Okay, good.
Yeah, and some of the other things you can do, one is, and we've talked about this for anxiety, is practice mindfulness. Because what mindfulness does, it gets you in the moment without making any kind of judgments, and you kind of stay there. So you're not thinking, oh, I need to check the door 20 times, or hopefully you can do this. I kind of do it when I start to feel myself getting that compulsion. Yeah, and that's what you really need to do. And we've talked about different techniques. You can do the simple breath counting. You just breathe in, exhale 1, keep going to like 30. Another thing you can do is 4-6 breathing or 4-7-8. You can look those up. I know we've talked about those many times. Mm-hmm. Also, you can music to get you in the moment. You can do some guided meditations or meditate. I know one thing I do a lot is guided imagery, and I'll walk through this field by my house that I used to play at when I was a kid. I just love that area. Mm-hmm. So it brings back pleasant memories. So the mindfulness techniques can really help.
Definitely, because they just help for anyone. Whether it's OCD, anxiety, or what. That's the good thing about learning your triggers, so you're cutting it off way back here before the compulsion or the thought is so strong that you feel like there is no relief until I do this 3 times or whatever. I was just talking to someone yesterday about she wanted to do an art journal, and I was saying, don't get overwhelmed by doing an art journal. Why don't you just start by doing something that is more mindful, like you just take regular Crayola, plain little watercolors that you can buy for 99 cents now at school supplies at Walmart, and just think about what are things outside that were blue, and try to do 3 things of blue, or try to just put 3 colors on the page. They may have to do with your mood, they may have to do with 3 colors that you see in the room. Anything just really small, just to get started, to get that mind shift to a calmer place. So any mindfulness that you can do, I think, is great. I like to go outside and I sit and I close my eyes and I think of, what can I feel, right? Can I feel the weight of me on the chair? Can I feel my arm on this chair? You know, the chair here is different. Can I feel the wind on my face? And then I go through, what can I hear? You know, I hear the birds, I hear the rustle of the, you know, the wind in the leaves, or the water, and then I might go into, how many different kinds of birds can I hear, right? Or how many different sounds can I hear? And it's just, again, like Pete said, it's just stopping and doing this ahead of time is when it works. If you practice it when you don't have compulsions and thoughts, it's going to work much better.
Yeah, and other things you can do is, I've had clients, you know, to stand in a room and you count off 5 paces to the left, and then you go 5 back to the right, and then 5 to the right, back to the left, and that can distract you. And also, if you have people around you, they can like give you 5 random numbers, like 5, 7, 9, 1, 2, and then you repeat those back. And for some reason, the mind has a problem staying anxious when it's reciting back odd numbers.
Yes.
Or I mean, not odd numbers.
Yeah,
a
it
series
cuts
of
off
numbers.
the fight or flight, right? Just like standing on one foot, we've talked about with anxiety, will shut off that fight or flight, because your body has a hard time staying in that state when it's trying to balance. And that's the same way with when it's thinking in a different part of the brain. How do I remember this? Or how do I count backwards or say the alphabet backwards? It's good to shut off that fight or flight response system.
Yeah, next thing is to get plenty of sleep.
Mm.
Because, well, let me go back. I want to get the sleep, but also to get plenty of exercise. So we've talked about that. You know, exercise, one thing, it gets you in shape. It can get chemicals flowing. It's a distraction. I know I have a friend that has OCD, and he's a runner. And when he's running, he's not thinking about anything else than his breathing, his gait, his speed. And if you're in good shape, you're less likely to be anxious than if you're just in terrible shape, in combination with some other things I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. I just talked to a guy a couple of days ago, and he said that he was getting anxious and he had stopped running. And he said, I have to run every day. It is like medicine for me. And I said, if that's what works for you, do it.
And
right? Put yourself back on your schedule. If you know that something works, write it down to make sure that you do it on a regular basis.
Although I did live with a girl one time, she very obsessive compulsive, and she got into exercising, and then exercising became the new one. So we had to do a lot of work on that, because you know, she would work out 7 days a week for several hours, and it was actually breaking her down physically. And I just said, whatever, I won't say her name, but I said, you just need to back off and do it every other day and for less than an hour. But it took a while to wean her off of that.
Yeah, we so have to watch, anyone has to watch, I think, entertaining where the mind may want to go. Right? You have to have some control over that. And we can start habits that can really turn against us. So it's, you know, it's that whole saying of having the balance, not too much of a good thing sort of thing. Exercise, eating, no matter what it is. Too much can be a problem.
Next one is sleep well and get enough sleep. Because if you don't get sleep, you get anxious. Your body is not rested. It's on edge. And there's all kinds of routines. You know, first of all, you have to get a routine. You know, go to bed at the same time. You know, make sure the room's darkened. Some people, like I have to have noise myself to sleep. Fans, TV. For a lot of people, though, that this TV doesn't relax you, so they say a lot of times electronics getting into playing games like 1 or 2 hours before you go to bed is a really bad idea.
Really bad. And I know that they do have those blue light filters now, but they still say it's bad. And they say if you listen to a radio, that's better than watching TV, because when your eyes are closed, your retina is still being stimulated, and then the brain is being stimulated by the flashes of light. Not to mention that the TV commercials are this much louder than the regular show that you're watching, and that can also keep you up. So it's an extremely bad habit to, unfortunately, fall asleep. Learn to fall asleep. Allow yourself to fall asleep with the TV on or being on your phone before you go to sleep.
Yeah, and even the light from the phone affects the brain. And you can get some filters, like you said, but it's just not a good idea. And the best thing is, like, getting a routine, going to bed the same time. If you have trouble sleeping, we've talked about this before, get up and do something until you're sleepy again and then go back to bed.
Yes. Always have a 3 to 4 step sleep routine. Even if you go to bed at a different time on the weekend, it's still good to have a routine, because you're teaching your brain to go to sleep. So by step 4, you're yawning because you've done the same things. You've read, you've taken a bath, you've, whatever you're doing, you're praying, you're, drinking tea, whatever it is. Some people like to exercise at night. It doesn't keep them awake. Other people say it keeps you awake. There's tons of yoga poses all over the place that are really great for sleep. So yes, if you don't have good sleep, every emotion is exaggerated. And the easiest emotion, I think, to have when you don't have a lot of sleep is irritation. And it's like when Pete just started talking about sleep here, it's because your body isn't ready to think correctly. And so it's not thinking correctly. It's like it's not firing off all cylinders. And so you can get highly agitated and irritated with yourself and with others. So good sleep will change your life. I'm a big believer of that.
Yeah, and if you have dogs, you might either train them not to get you up. My Boston Terrier, well, I don't sleep much anyway, but at 2:30 or 4 o'clock every night, she wakes me up to go outside. No. So I'm training her that I'm not going to take her out. And I really think she wants to go out to get treats. I don't think she has to do anything. She's kind of figured out she gets a treat if she goes out.
She's just a late night snacker.
Yeah, without a doubt.
She's training you to let her be a late night snacker at 2:30.
Without a doubt. Fortunately, my German Shepherd goes out in the morning. She's too busy guarding Kathy's door. So she has a job to do. So next thing is to avoid alcohol and nicotine. What research shows that, alcohol in particular, you feel relaxed at first, but then research shows when that initial relaxation wears off, it actually amps up your agitation.
Yes, and we have an anxiety workbook here that I've used for years with people, and it says the same thing. It says you may fall asleep because you're relaxed, or because unfortunately you drank too much and you're passing out, but you are not getting to good REM sleep. Your REM sleep will be interrupted by your body absorbing especially all the sugar and alcohol. So it is not a good thing. Again, it's one of those habits that people get into, just like keeping the TV on. If you think you got to have one more smoke break or you have to have drink before you go to sleep, don't start that.
Yeah.
Not a good habit to start, unfortunately.
And the nicotine is just a stimulant. I remember I had a guy one time that was very obsessive compulsive when I worked at the mental health center, and he would go out and start smoking. And the thing is, what he didn't realize, he would say, well, I got to go out and have a smoke to calm down, but he was actually getting more agitated the more he smoked.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm saying this isn't working for you, so you really need to do something else.
Yes.
Yeah, and the last thing is, reach out to family and friends, because I know it was funny when when I owned this house in Urbana and I was working in Toledo and I would keep check going up and down. I told my neighbors that I have this tendency, so they would actually, when they knew I would leave like Monday to drive up to Toledo, and they would actually come out, and they said they'd let me go. I don't remember how many times up and down. Then they'd come out and say, "You need to stop.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
check your house.
Yeah.
It's going to be locked. Go." And I know, I don't think you've ever had to stop me from doing something obsessive compulsive, but I know sometimes my wife will say, we need to go. You need to quit checking the door.
We're going to be late, honey.
Yeah, well, we're already late because she always runs late, so that just makes
That
us
one's
more
not your
late.
fault, okay.
Yeah, so, but they can kind of help you. They can help you do the breathing. They can talk to you. They can, like, do the counting, I said, with the random numbers and things like that.
So I think it's great to have support. So whether it's someone in your home or even your neighbor, that's great to have a little support. We all have things that we would like to not do, habits or diagnoses, however I think things exist in our life or come about that we don't like. And if we can have some reassurance that I'll watch your house, you don't have to check it 5 more times, or hey, I'll be your distraction, come over here and count with me or breathe with me for a minute. Why not help someone out with something like that?
Yeah, it's funny. Melody is an office person that helps me out on Tuesdays, and when she leaves, she'll say, "I'll lock the door so we can get out of here quicker."
Because I only have to do it one time.
Yeah, because she notices I do that, so I thought that was kind of funny. And that kind of humor helps me.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to talk about is, and I mentioned this I think several times as we've kind of done this series, is, and it sounds weird, but if you just accept that this is the way you are, and not to try to fight it so intently.
Yes.
I mean, when I just realized this OCD is just going to be part of me forever, and I can laugh at it. I don't get upset about it. I've learned to control it. But sometimes if you struggle too much against something, you aren't making progress.
I so agree, and I think that anxiety is the exact same way. And we talk to clients about sometimes you can distract from the thought, right? Like how we started, right? A cognitive distraction or revamp. But sometimes that doesn't work. And so you can allow the thought to come up, but then you might attach something else to it, right? Like another habit that's going to interrupt that habit. I start doing this, but now instead of doing that 5 times, I go over here and then I read, or I go outside and walk around the block. And then I say, once I walk around the block, that's my reset. Or I finish this cup of coffee, and then that's going to be my reset button. And I'm going to, stop that thinking. So yes, I think when you really, really try hard not to do something, I think the classic example that Pete and I have talked about before is if you're going on a diet and you're saying, I'm not going to have any chocolate, you're going to think about chocolate all the damn time.
Yeah.
Right? So sometimes you just have to be, there it is. I really love chocolate. My mind just loves to think about this chocolate, but not today, right? I only have my chocolate on my cheat day on Friday, or, I want to do this about my health, so I'm choosing to not have the chocolate today or whatever. Yeah.
And with all these techniques, again, it's a skill that you develop, and don't think it's going to change. It's like I've mentioned several times before, I realized that I wasn't going to go from checking the door 40 times to stopping in a day.
Yeah.
So it was, like I said, I started at 20, and I would count to 20, and then I would, again, cognitively shift my thinking, it's time to go. Then I gave it a month, and I went to 10 and 5, and I'll probably remain at 2 for the rest of my life. But when I leave here, it's just doing the door twice to make sure it's doesn't
and it's
open.
fine. It's so palatable, I guess, right? It's so easy to live with. It doesn't affect your life or harm your life doing it 2 times. So we've offered lots of techniques, and maybe you can do some of those yourself. We would encourage you to just do one. Don't do all of them. And if you have trouble with that or need someone to hold you accountable, then yes, try to get a neighbor, a friend, or even a therapist.
And that
right,
was the
to
last
really help
one,
you.
is to get a therapist.
Get a therapist. If those, some self-help things work, and sometimes we need someone else to hold us accountable to keep up the habit long enough so that it does work and we do reap the benefits. Because like Pete says, you're not going to reap the benefits instantly. That's not how life works.
Yeah, and I mean, it may have taken, like in my case, it took me, well, I'm 67, so it's something that's been 67 years to kind of, it's been there. I'm not going to solve it in 67 seconds or 67 minutes.
Or 67 days.
Yeah.
Maybe. But you can get better, especially if you have somebody to help you out and to stay on track.
Because I think it took me a good 6 months to stop the door checking.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, great. So if you have not listened to us before, we would encourage you to come back here. Wednesdays around 1:30 is when we try to jump on. If there's something that you would like us to talk about, please put that in our subject line. If you like this today and thought it was useful, then share it on your own page or give us a thumbs up. And if you didn't listen to the 2 previous ones also about things concerning with OCD, then you can look back in our video library right here on Facebook and watch those. So we hope that you have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching.